Welcome to Milking the Franchise, the Cash Cow Chronicles, where me and Chris watch
movies. I think we harmonized that time.
We are getting really good at that.
Yeah, you hit like the high note, and I came in right with, and I think we made I don't know.
We made a beautiful
theory.
Beautiful baby.
A beautiful music baby. Yes, we did, Tanner.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good.
Chris, what do we do here? What is the podcast about?
Well, Tanner, this podcast is a podcast where we watch movies. We pick a series of movies and we watch each one in order. And we also try to read any books or graphic novels, play any board games, video games, anything else we can get our hands on that goes along with that franchise. And we just kind of, live in the universe of those movies until it's time to move on.
We like to get very handsy with the IP.
Oh, so handsy.
We have surveys that go along with every film. So if you're listening, take the survey for each movie, follow along, make some jokes. We'll read that in a sec. But before we do that, Chris, how are you?
Tanner. Man, I'm doing good. I had a nice little trip this weekend to the city of Bogota, the capital here. And it was very nice. The food there is spectacular, and the weather was very nice. And I went to the Fernando Botero Museum.
Which was nice!
Really great museum, and I love his paintings. They are so wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, he's an artist?
Yes, sir.
I've never heard of him. What era?
Let's see. He was alive. He died this year, actually. But you would recognize a couple of his paintings because they've been turned into memes and they pop up on Reddit sometimes. But he's a pretty famous Colombian, and he does all the paintings he does are kind of like lumpy people. They're like oddly shaped.
Oh, okay.
But the pieces themselves are enormous, and the museum was free and really cool stuff there. So.
I see. So he redid the Mona Lisa, but with kind of a chubby cherub looking version.
Exactly. That one's in Bogota at this museum that I went to this weekend. So that was a good time, and went with some friends from school, and we had a fun weekend away.
Cool. Sounds great.
How you doing, man?
Good. Yeah, I just also was on a trip. I just got back from Mexico. In Puerto Vallarta. Did I say that right? My
Your
Spanish
is spectacular.
My Spanish is very poor. But I've noticed traveling abroad. I went to Thailand and Japan last year that everyone just kind of immediately defaults to English. So even if I wanted to try my Spanish, it'd be at least in the bigger cities, it seems like. They just make it so easy for you to not have to speak the language. And it was I kind of wanted to work my way through it. You know what I mean? And have them not do that. But
I think it's because you went to Puerto Vallarta. There's so many American tourists that go 100%. There. You picked a touristy spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
very touristy.
Well, Tanner, should we try this whole episode of the podcast in Spanish so you can get that Spanish practice now?
Chronicle. What's Chronicles in Spanish?
Las Chronicles? I'm not sure. Yeah, we're outside of my range already. I know milk is leche.
Oh, well.
There
we'll
we
get
go.
there. Yeah, there we go. Stick around at the end for the milk.
Yeah.
So today, let's see. We watched the Chronicles of Riddick, which was the second movie in the Riddick trilogy, possibly quadrilogy, coming out soon. Maybe soon. But I played the Escape from Butcher Bay game from 2004. this week, and yeah, we'll get into that. But before we do, we're gonna go over last week's survey for Pitch Black.
Yeah, so like Tanner mentioned before, every week with the movie we watch, we put out a survey with some little jokes, some little bits, some little quips. And we hope you guys enjoy them as much as we do. If we like your responses, we'll read them on the show. And so help us make this thing funnier.
The good thing is, because of our limited listenership, I love every response because there's not that many. But in the future,
limited listenership, Tanner, that was the most. That was the politest way to say that nobody listens to our show. I love it.
Well, we have a cult following of 1 or 2 people.
That's right. But when we're rich and famous and we're way too good for you listeners, you're never going to get your responses read on the air. But right now, while we're nobodies, get them in.
It's like when you enter a contest online or something, it's like you don't really expect to win. 1 million people entered this contest, So when I have hundreds and thousands of responses each week, I'm going to hire a whole team to sift through them and pay them very well. So yeah, let's get into that. Pitch Black from last week. The favorite line of the movie. We have a 3-way split here.
Right.
The top 2, you're not afraid of the dark, are you? And
nice.
They're all good here. And then I voted for this as well. They say most of your brain shuts down in cryo sleep, all but the primitive side, the animal side. No wonder I'm still awake.
That's the opening line of the movie. Yeah. What a tone that set too.
Yeah. There's another good quote in this new movie, animal related. And then the one that was just so outrageous, the most outrageous part of the movie. Why don't you butch up, stuff a cork in this fucking kid, and let's go?
Yeah, that sure got said in the movie.
There was a point where he could smell that this boy was actually a girl named Jack in the movie, and that's how he could tell. It's because she was
and he could smell it, which is weird.
Smell it. Yeah. So he's got heightened senses, I guess they're trying to say. All right, what is included in the animal side of your brain?
Ooh.
We got the primitive side. That's the literal answer.
I actually like that. That's funny to me.
A monkey. Wild. Just wild.
Just wild.
Simpsons memes, sexual fantasies of Danny DeVito, and read my lips, no new taxes.
All right.
I
love that Simpsons memes is number 1 on that list.
I like this person.
Yeah.
Sexual fantasy of Danny DeVito. I assume he was referring to a predator prey drive. Yeah. Violence. Yep. And then we got anger, drive, lust, shame from years of bedwetting. And then the last one, sniffing hair, and In-N-Out animal style burger.
I love that. There we
go. Favorite color, tint / night vision. Overwhelming votes. The surgical shine job vision.
Runaway winner on that one.
Yeah. It featured just a lot of different tints and like visions of like the animals of like there's like blue tints when it's cold, orange tints when it's hot, which they completely abandoned for this new movie. Seems like. Oh boy, this one's a big split. Coolest thing about Riddick. See, we got 8 votes altogether, and I think everything got voted for once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Except for cutting hair off girls and smelling it.
Yeah, nobody voted for that one. Which that's
weird. It's weird that didn't happen. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's like the craziest thing about him, but not the coolest. He can smell period blood, and he shaves his head with a knife and motor oil. Those are the top 2.
Top 2. Love it.
Pretty cool. Also, his name is Richard B. Riddick. He wears dope goggles. He paid 20 cool cigarettes for a shine job on his eyes to see in the dark. Lots of cool things about Riddick, obviously. Hard to pick just one. I think that's what we found out.
Absolutely.
What does the B in Richard B. Riddick stand for? This has not been defined. Don't know. Badass. We got two badasses.
Mhm.
Belvedere. I think that was the person that said the funny one up top. Yep. Simpsons memes. Great work. You understood the assignment very well. Brandon.
uh,
Black. Richard Black Riddick. Okay.
Richard Black Riddick. Okay.
Bossy. Like that. And then we got Badass again. And then Bartholomew and Big Dick.
Big Dick Riddick. Is that what you're proposing for that last one?
Dick Riddick, exactly.
Or I guess he could be Ricky Big Dick. It's the fun thing about Richard. You can change it into all sorts of things.
Isn't that the capital of Iceland?
Big Dick?
Ricky
Big Dick? Ricky Big Dick?
And then we asked you to rate Pitch Black on a scale of not very black to pitch black. And the winner was 5 out of 5. We got the most votes.
Great.
Average probably like a 4 point something. So yeah, pretty fun. Pretty fun movie. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty fun, over the top space adventure. It's cool.
Yeah, not complicated. Unlike this movie we're about to talk about, very complicated movie.
Yeah, dude.
So many ins and outs.
Ins, outs, what have yous. All
what
sorts
have
of things in
yous.
this movie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's do it. Let's talk about the Chronicles of Riddick, Chris.
Let's do that. Because
So
Vin
this
Diesel
movie-
is back.
He's back.
Mhm.
This is his little passion project here. Let's see, 2004 it came out, and it's the same director, David Twohy. I believe he directs all three of them.
Mhm.
And I noticed he doesn't really do much else. He doesn't really have any other movies. Maybe they weren't big enough of hits or something.
This was like his franchise?
Pretty much. I mean, he's done a few other things, but not really.
I watched that. My Milk Today, I'll do a little spoiler, is the Slam City, that YouTube short that we found. And his name is on that as being attached to it. And that thing is super low budget. So it really does seem like this is his...
it's his baby.
Yeah, this is his baby. Yeah.
And I played the video game, the first game. I didn't see his name attached to it, but everyone else is attached to it. Like Vin Diesel is a huge part of it, and Johns is in it as well.
Okay.
From the first movie. But yeah, I'll talk about that later. Chris, where do you want to start with this movie?
Probably with those weird metal faces, right?
Those are pretty cool. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah, we're on a foreign planet, and
Helios Prime, right?
Are we already on Helios Prime?
Or Helion Prime?
I think we were seeing the bad guys destroying a planet first, and we hadn't quite gotten to...
That could be.
Yeah, but the metal face guys, we will learn more about them later. We get a huge expo dump right at the top of this, and the whole thing is narrated by Judi Dench. What did you catch from that?
Oh, there's an army called the Necromongers.
Hell yeah.
They're bringing upon something called the Underverse. Right? And
I thought they were looking for the Underverse, or they were traveling to the Underverse or something.
I think it's like he's like their spiritual leader, right? The main bad guy.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name.
Lord Marshall.
Yep. And I thought he was gonna like bring about the Underverse, or like, you know,
it was like an event more than a place. Okay.
Or like I don't even know, like an apocalypse scenario. I don't know.
Okay.
Unclear.
Well, we don't see the Underverse in this movie, right? It's just kind of talked about. So it's kind of hard to say for sure. But yeah, Necromongers, Underverse.
I think it's more of an idea, though. That's what I was getting at. But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and Lord Marshall is the leader. He's the only one that has been to the Underverse, and from that experience, he's like half dead, half alive, which gives him some like ghost powers that he taps into a couple times.
He
but
can
this
like
group
pull the soul out of people.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But this group, the Necromongers, they seem to be planet destroyers. So right before kind of the opening credits with Chronicles of Riddick, we see these like I don't know, kind of like spikes sticking into the planet that detonate and blow up this planet. Right?
Yeah, they're just out for like domination, right? Just global domination, gaining followers.
Yeah,
They ask everybody to bow to them and convert rather than, and if they don't, then they kill them, right? That's
yeah.
kind of their
It's
traveling around and doing all
kind
the
of
things.
like the Borg from Star Trek.
Yeah, just the
Yeah.
classic
Hmm.
megalomaniac kind of thing, power hungry leader, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's all I got from the beginning dump. You got anything else there?
No, that was where I was at too. So from there, we go to the UV system, planet number 6, and we see a chase scene with a man with an incredible beard and super long hair running full speed across the tops of these like chasms, these like big crevasses in the ground. He's like just running top to top and being chased by a helicopter.
Or yeah, a giant like spaceship thing. Yeah.
Sure. Yes. Sorry, a spaceship.
Yeah, and it's Riddick. He has hair. First time I've seen Vin Diesel with any type of hair, I think.
Uh-huh.
I normally look at him as like a hairless cat type.
I wonder if he was really insistent that each one of these movies have a reference to like he can grow hair, he just chooses not to. Because in the last one, he shaved his head with a knife,
Yeah.
and in this one, they show him at the beginning with this huge beard and like long hair.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just cleaner. Maybe he moves quicker when he's like bald, and that's maybe part of the thing.
Maybe he just gets a surgical shine job on his head and face every once in a while.
It is pretty shiny.
Pretty
Very
shiny.
in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's running. You find out this guy Toombs has been sent to capture him. Somebody's paying him. He's a mercenary. And he's the guy at the end of the animated thing that we watched last week, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
The Dark Fury short that's bridged the gap between the two movies. And it kind of ends with him saying, "This isn't the last we've seen of you," or something like that. And this is him chasing him down. And he's kind of like a dime store Wolverine looking guy.
Yeah. Very angular facial hair. Very pointy.
Pointy, grizzly looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really know. He's just chasing him down. There's not much else to say, really.
They shoot some nets at him. They don't catch him, and Riddick manages to get above the spaceship and take out both of the gunners from this spaceship before even getting on the spaceship himself to confront Toombs.
Yeah, and then they drop early on their one F-bomb. He says, "A 4-man crew from me, fucking insulting." And later on, the guy brings a 5-man group, just one extra.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought this movie, I looked it up, it said rated R online, so I thought I was watching a rated R movie. And halfway through, I realized it was PG-13 because there's like no blood or anything. It's very cartoony action.
Can you
like
only
CGI.
say one F word in a PG-13 movie?
That's the thing. And it came so early, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. That this is R-rated. There's going to be a lot of swearing and like violence and grittiness. It wasn't really that.
Okay. A lot more sniffing hair.
A lot of sniffing hair. So yeah, he finds out there's like a 1.5 million bounty on his head from Helion Prime. And he says something to the effect of like he only told one person where he was going to be, and that was Imam Keith David from the first movie.
Yep.
So once he gets away from Toombs, or he gets his ship, right? Does he hijack his ship?
Yeah, he asked him at the very end, last question, and this is the most important one. Whose ship is this? And Toombs says, mine. And so he gets thrown out of the ship. And Vin Diesel Riddick takes the ship and heads to Helion Prime.
Yep.
Yep.
The one thing about Riddick that I like is he's always got a good line. Like
Yes.
they give him a lot of good like one-liners and like cool things to say, you know. Um yeah, so they talk about it's been 5 years since he left Keith David and Jack on this planet, the new Mecha planet or whatever. Um and he goes to find him.
Yeah. Did that kid wasn't in the first movie, right?
No.
She looked older than 5 years old to me. Am I
Well,
crazy, or did he have a
she looked pretty
wife?
young to me.
Because all Imam's kids all died in Pitch Black, right?
Yeah, I don't
Or
know
at
if
least,
those were his kids or just his other followers, but
oh, that's right. That could be that. Okay,
I'm
okay,
pretty sure he met this woman there and had the kid, and she was supposed to be about 5, yeah, 4 or
okay.
5. She
Cool, cool,
was
cool.
probably older, the actress, but she looked pretty young. Um, and of course, Riddick has a soft spot for children. It's
Mm-hmm.
very clear, so he gets pulled into things, you know, not against his will, but because he wants to save the kids every time.
Yes.
He's a very good man in that way, right?
Heart of gold. He's got that surgical shine job on his heart too, Tanner.
By the way, a little teaser. I found out what the surgical shine job, what happened with that in the game. So I'll talk about that later.
That it also happened in the thing that I watched this week, so we can talk about
Oh,
that.
really?
Compare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Um, but yeah, her name is Ziza. She doesn't really have a big part in this, except for she kind of pulls him into the story a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
I don't even know. She's been hearing stories about Riddick from a mom this whole time. And he's just mentioning that all this shit is happening to this planet, right?
Yeah.
So what is happening to this planet, Chris?
Great question. While they're kind of discussing here, we get like kind of the backstory on the necromongers a little bit more. Riddick gets the backstory, and they kind of ask him to stick around. Judi Dench shows up as Arion. She is, I wrote this down, an envoy from the elemental race. And I don't quite know what that means, but in this movie, it means that she can like turn into clouds and kind of float around.
She's very ghostly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It made me wonder if there were other elementals. Like, is there a fire elemental?
Probably.
Is this like an Avatar Airbender thing, and we're only getting one of the 4 in this movie?
It feels like they're just like any kind of space sci-fi creature could appear in this franchise. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. But within this like kind of argument of them trying to convince him to come help their planet, they seem to be pretty convinced that he's from a race called the Furians, and that's the only race that the necromongers fear. Because I guess there was some prophecy back in the day that a Furian was going to kill Lord Marshall, and so he had the Furians extinguished, and he destroyed their planet, and that kind of was one of the instigating events of this necromonger crusade.
Yeah, like at the heart of this, that's the whole story right there. Is that this guy's trying to take over, and yeah, the prophecy, like you said, it's going to be a Furian, and Riddick doesn't really know his past at all. He kind of learns it throughout this movie. He didn't know where he was from exactly, and you kind of find out through the games and stuff like that his eyesight might be like a trait of these people, right? And like his kind of abilities are a trait of the Furian race. So rather than like, something that he got installed on him,
the 20 cool cigarettes that he paid for the thing. Okay.
But we get a little
talk about that because that
was
not what happened in my thing. So
really, yeah. Well, it's kind of it's not clear either. I'd had to do some research on it.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll get to that. Let's see. There's a little fight scene here. They come in after them. I don't know how they knew where he was, but there's a little fight scene inside the house here, and he turns out the candles by like putting his hands over them, and then there's like a darkness fight scene. A lot of strobe lights.
You're not afraid of the dark, are you? The light hurts my eyes. And then he put out the candles.
I
Yeah,
thought
he
that
got
there
one
was
of his
gonna
good
be.
singers in there.
I thought there was gonna be a lot more darkness fights in this movie, but I think this is the only one. Am I wrong?
You might be right. Yeah,
Where
I
it's
mean,
like
he
actually
didn't really use
utilizing.
his eyes that much in this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not really. I mean, they show him with the eyes a lot, like, and that's his distinguishing feature. But yeah, they don't really use the darkness as much.
yeah.
Let's see, where are we at here?
The Holy Man also kind of fills Riddick in on Jack. Riddick clearly still has like some and so like some sort of an attachment to Jack and like feels for her. And she has been locked up on a planet called Crematoria, which I thought was a really funny name for a hot planet.
Yeah,
crematorium.
yeah,
And as Riddick
really
takes
on the nose.
very on the nose, yes, kind of like necromongers, and I don't know. I thought the wordplay here was kind of fun for me.
Yeah,
But yeah, and then as he's leaving, the little girl asks, "Are you going to stop the new monsters now?" And Tanner, spoiler alert, he fucking stops those new monsters, bro.
he stops the new monster.
Meanwhile, they had been raiding, like the police had been at the Imam's house, but much more problematic is that the necromongers have now arrived in this like corner of the galaxy, and they're at this planet to destroy this planet. So like, we're kicking this thing off. It's ready. It's time to go. The
What is the
necromongers are
name?
arriving.
Is this Helion Prime that
This
they're
is
at?
Helion Prime. Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make
Yep.
sure. Yeah. So there's a ship. There's like a crash at some point, and it like knocks out the power to the entire city. I don't really know what the significance was for that. Maybe that was their attempt to just make it dark for Riddick to fight.
Oh, there you go.
I just kind of have random events. They're basically escaping the army during this entire time. They have these creatures that are called lensers that wear these
Yep.
like little lenses that can see like heat signatures and stuff. So there's like
Those
some
guys were very Mad Max to me. Did you get that?
Mad Max. Yeah.
Like the
What's
weird yellowness on the screen. I don't know. I thought it was kind of a good visual.
Yeah, I think that was the only
Yeah.
time they showed like eyesights of something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just like these little. That's like their only job. They're like kind of their pets. These little creatures that just like can see heat signatures for them.
Yeah.
And they find Imam and the wife and daughter, and the wife and daughter get away, but Imam ends up dying during all this.
That's right.
Stop me if I get ahead of myself. But there's a lot of fighting and just running away from these people, and then Imam ends up dying. That's
Yep.
pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah.
There's
But
like
I mean, that's
staff.
kind of a big deal. We lost one of the three characters that made it out of the last movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have these like staffs, and there's a couple times where it shows it that like a blue orb comes out of it and then explodes and kills everything underneath it. And then there's like a massive one at the end that goes up in the air and then doesn't go off. But I assume that was supposed to destroy the whole planet or something, or the whole town.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I think that's the only time they use that, right? Right here.
Yeah, they didn't come back to that as much as I thought they would, because it seemed like a pretty powerful like weapon. But overall, this force, these necromongers are way overpowering. There are like thousands of ships. They went way out of their way to make this scene really big, with like this huge invading force, and it just really felt inevitable that these guys are just going to keep taking over planets.
Yeah.
And then we get a little scene with the Lord Marshal, who is the leader of the necromongers, and he's explaining that to the locals that have not been killed, that they either need to join the ranks of the necromongers and their pain will go away, or then one guy stands up to kind of challenge them, and Lord Marshal walks over and pulls out his soul. Which was pretty hardcore.
Pretty cool. The
Pretty
guy
cool.
dies from it, right? Does he die?
I think so. He dies slowly if he dies, because you get a couple reaction shots from him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I think here you're introduced to Vaco. Is it Vaco?
Mm-hmm.
Played by Carl Urban.
That's right.
And he's just
Butcher,
kind of
Billy Butcher himself.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Judge Dredd himself.
Is he Judge Dredd also?
Yeah, in the Dredd movie.
Okay.
That's a cool movie. Yeah, so he shows up. He's kind of just like, and Thandie Newton is his wife, right?
Yep.
He's just kind of like the head of the army, I guess, right? Or like the second in command. Is that right?
Yeah, he's one of the leaders there, and his Thandie Newton, his wife, really wants him to be in charge of the necromongers. He needs to.
Did you call her Thoughty?
How do you say her name? I didn't mean to do that wrong. If I did.
Oh, I don't know. Just like Thoughty, like a thought.
Thandiwe.
Oh,
Thandiwe. I was way.
I thought it was just
Thandie
Newton. I think she added the WE in her name later on. So yeah, down here it says as just Thandie Newton. She added a WE to her name over the years. That's probably her real name.
Yeah.
Thandiwe. Yeah, you're probably right.
Okay. However you say her name, my apologies if I did it wrong. But yeah, she's in this with Carl Urban, and they're kind of angling. They're making their political plays to take over for the Lord Marshal, the dude in charge.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of societies or whatever. If you kill the leader, you just become the leader. So that's kind of
like managing a McDonald's. If you kill the last manager of the McDonald's, you get to manage that McDonald's.
That's exactly right.
Or like the Santa Claus with Tim Allen. If he dies on your roof, then you become the Santa Claus.
Now that's the real version. Yes. Yeah. So he, I guess they are confronting Riddick. There's a moment where they want him to like convert, and he's not really obeying. He's like, I don't listen to anyone, blah, blah, blah. But then Thandie Newton tries to convince him, and he's, because she's beautiful, and he smells her, and then he says, it's been a while. It's been a long time since I smelled beautiful.
Uh-huh. Which, honestly, after the haircutting thing in the first movie is very on character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what even happens here? She kind of takes him into this room where he gets hooked up to something, and it shows the past, right? Or tells, it's like a lie detector thing, right?
I didn't know what those were. They felt like they were other bad guys or something, but he gets like magnetized to the floor, and they scan him, and they're able to figure out that he is a Furian.
And they're screaming like, kill the Riddick, kill the Riddick.
Yeah. What else happens here? Yeah, they ID him as a Furian. They say kill the Riddick. But then for some reason they turn off the magnet thing and let him get up to fight all the other bad guys, which he does and then escapes.
Yeah. He escapes and he's running out of the building and gets picked up by Toombs at the last minute. So Toombs, without even trying, he ends up saving him from these guys.
Yeah.
And he gets caught in the net. This time he's got him, and there's some like badass dude giant between the two of them. But he actually saved Riddick's life in a way. And he's going to take him to another prison and sell him, for a bunch of money because that's what he does.
Yeah.
And that planet, the prison, happens to be the crematorium planet. Or
Crematoria.
So that's lucky for him. This is the place where that Jack girl is going to be. So that worked out as well. But so they're going to be following this ship as well because they want Riddick now because he's Furian. Necromongers.
Lord Marshal sends Vaco, Carl Urban, after Riddick to kill him.
Yeah, and this this planet that they're going to, they mentioned that it's like one side of the planet when the sun's on it is 700 degrees, and then on the dark side it's negative 300 degrees.
And so I love that. I love that so much. They just like there is no scientific basis for this. They just like the way that they design these planets are just for dope action scenes. You know what I mean? The last one had an eclipse that lasted for months or something.
With
and
creatures
this one,
that can only come out in the dark.
yeah. So yeah, this planet is equally insane. You cannot be out during the day because like giant blasts of flames just like engulf everything outside.
Or
not
at night. You can't be out
or at night.
anytime.
Yeah.
Only like the in-between time, which we'll get into in a bit.
But that does make it a
yeah,
good place for a jail. I don't know how they built the jail, but
I like that they
like
use. Yeah, but the jail's underground. Yeah, so that's why they put it there. I guess it's inescapable because the surface is you can't even go on it. But yeah, I like that they use planets and various like sun weather effects as like plot points in the movie, right? Like these unique solar systems and stuff. Kind of cool. So yeah, what happens? He gets sent to this place. They go on a rail car down to the bottom. Riddick like kills one of the mercs by pushing him up and his head getting hit at the top of the rail car. And then he just kind of shrugs when they look back, like he didn't do anything. And then at the end of it, which again
Toombs wasn't that upset about it either, though, because then he didn't have to split the bounty as many ways, right? It's only a 4-way split instead of a 5. Yeah,
he yells 4-way split.
Yeah.
This was a funny little addition that they put in here. After this long minecart ride is going really fast, it stops when they get to the prison, and Riddick says 29.4 kilometers. So he was able to tell how far it traveled, right?
Sure.
It doesn't really play into anything, but it's just like that's a cool thing about Riddick. He always knows how far they traveled, or
he knows what's up, man.
He just has these instincts. It's constantly just showing off his cool instincts.
Yeah. If you don't know how he did it, then you're not cool enough to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else happens here?
Yeah. So we're down underneath on the well in the belly, 29.4. Is that what you said, Tanner? Kilometers underneath the surface of Crematoria. Mm-hmm. Real steampunk shit down there. Lots of like shadows and circular goggles. It's like kind of a weird mining prison. I don't really understand how this prison works, if I'm being honest with you. But
I don't know.
But Riddick,
it's just like underground on this planet they can't escape from. It's that max security.
But what about okay, well, there's some things that come up that I'm curious about. But I think first we should talk about that insane escape that Riddick did by like roping his way up the rope and then dropping from
he like rolls and twists his way up a rope. And then it like twirls back down, unraveling the rope, and that breaks his chains to get out of it. But the fact that he's just on he's hanging by a rope chained up. Why that?
I don't know. I have not been to a prison that works that way, let alone any other prison. But maybe that's how.
Tell us the story, Chris. So that happens. And then there's some scenes of the mercs negotiating payment. They say that 700K is not enough for him. So they ask him to like run the numbers again. And he's like, well, that's going to take me a few days. So I don't really know why, but now they're going to stay there for a couple days, which is just, or a day at least. I think Tomb says you got 1 day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just gets him on this planet longer, more time for Riddick to escape. So
of course,
what else?
Which is
what else
exactly
happens
what
here?
he's going to do. Well, we also meet Jack. Remember, we're supposed to be here for that. Jack is no longer pretending to be a boy. She's going by Kyra now. I don't know what's the actress who played that. Yeah, she's hot now. She's
hot now. Her name is Alexa Davalos. It's a different actress than in the first movie.
Yep.
So they changed her out, and she's just a little spunky badass now. Totally felt like a totally different person. I know it was a different actress, but they're like, they took it in a whole different direction.
I really thought that. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that it was going to be a lot more Riddicky, but they made her so feminine that it did feel totally different than Jack in the first movie. I'm right there with you.
But they do kind of make her out to be like a little Riddick style. Like she's really fast. She's got these little spikes on her shoes that comes out, and she beats people up. She's like
she's
love
murdering
inspired
people.
by Riddick. Yeah, she's like a little lady Riddick here.
Yeah.
And
they redo their how do I get eyes like that bit from the first movie.
She calls him a liar for like saying the story isn't true. There's nobody here that like was able to give me these darkness eyes or anything.
Yeah.
And he at one point he like lifts her up by her vagina with his arm and like pulls her up to his eyes. Do you remember that part?
I do not remember that. I don't know how I missed that.
He like puts his arm between her legs and like pulls her up to like lift her off the ground.
Oh,
that
sure.
way.
Yeah.
Not with his hand, but with his arm like a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Just some of the little touches in this movie.
He was putting a cork in it, dude.
So, yeah.
So, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about, the feeding time. So we met up with Kyra, or Jack, now Kyra, and Riddick's there, Toombs is there, Vaco's on his way, and then they let in these giant, like, rock jaguars.
I don't know. Yeah, the dogs. The rock dog things.
Were those like guard dogs? But then they just started eating the prisoners, which didn't seem like a very good way to run a jail.
Did they mention feeding time? Is that a part of it?
Oh, I thought they did. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe.
Do you think they're just like local and there's just like stray human eating dogs in this underground jail? Like they're just strays?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Okay.
It didn't seem to like have any. Well, a lot of people were like hiding, you know, they make a point of like they're hiding on the rocks, just kind of like in random places, you know, like up against the wall, like on like a rock shelf or whatever. What am I trying to say? So maybe they're just constantly avoiding these dogs all the time, and that's just sick fun.
Maybe that's it.
Guards, I don't know. But these animals, these rock jaguars or whatever.
It just seemed to me like if the guards are going to be paying all this money for bounties on these prisoners, they should like keep the rock dogs from eating them.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, it's just like another action scene, a creature to have fights with and like have people die.
Yeah,
as part of the movie.
And Riddick, of course, faces one down and soothes it because he's got that animal side, baby. You know.
Yeah, he's doing a stare down with it, and it calms it down. It's in the subtitles. I watched it with subtitles on, and it says the dog was named Thrash. So I don't know. That's just a tidbit just from the subtitles. And the one cool thing about it, and I think it was it like turns red when it gets angry, right? So it's like black and then it turns red, or maybe it's like a chameleon kind of thing where it's camouflage. I'm not sure. But the CGI is really bad. That's what I want to talk about. I did not. These dogs look so dumb to me. This is such a relic of this era of CGI that part doesn't hold up to me.
I don't know why they're there. It just seems they seem so unnecessary. But yeah. And anyway, we get a scene here with Kyra. The guards kind of grope her up, but like Tanner mentioned before, she's got these dope spike shoes.
She says, "I'm a new animal."
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Riddick shows up with a teacup, and he says, "I'll kill you with my teacup." And then guess what he does, Tanner? Wait for it. He kills him with a teacup.
He slams it down on the rock and like turns it a little. Just the top edges get all frayed and kind of like sharp, and then he like sticks it in the chest of the guy and like turns it, to kill him. It was actually maybe one of the more brutal deaths in this movie.
But since you told me it was PG-13 and not R, I think that would have been a lot more of a gruesome, bloody scene if they'd actually made this R-rated.
I think that was the only blood in the movie was on the cup afterwards.
You might be right. Because Kyra pulls the cup out after.
I wanted to go back to when he calms the dog down because there's.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
My favorite line in the movie is that the guy sees him do that. The dog turns around and barks at someone else and then walks away. And the guy's like, "How did you do that?" And he just looks at him. It's an animal thing. So that just relates back to the animal side of the brain.
Absolutely.
What is Riddick? Is he an animal?
I mean, what are Furians? I don't know, Tanner.
I don't know. We'll find out. The fourth movie is called Furia, potentially.
Is it really? Okay.
That's what it's in development for years, so we'll see. But yeah, so that the teacup scene is this girl's getting kind of like patted down. The guy like grabs her butt, and she's beating the shit out of them at first, and then kind of gets grabbed, and then he comes in and kills the guy with the teacup. And these are these the guards or are these other prisoners that he's doing this to?
Those are guards.
These
are like the workers at the thing. But they do make some friends with a couple of the prisoners.
Yeah,
because their gang gets a little bit bigger in the next couple scenes.
Yep. So he talks to her. There's some moments with her about how she left New Mecca. She shouldn't have left, and he like rips the light out of the ceiling and says, "You didn't listen," or something like that. And then she became a slave because she tried to become a merc, and they sold her out, something like that.
Yeah.
And they go.
Riddick wasn't around to save her, right? So there's supposed to be some guilt there. Yep.
So he notices that they like filter in the air every so often. They like open these things in the ceiling or up top that kind of like filters in new air. And this is his moment where he realizes he has a path to escape this place.
Absolutely. Yep.
And tells the guy, "The moment will come quick. When you're ready, follow me." One of the other prisoners who's like, they got a little band of people they're going to help get out of here. Yeah, but I think, okay, so what's happening now is that...
Then we get a shot here. Can I jump in, Tanner?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, great. So we get a couple shots. Vaco is on the way, and Toombs wants to get paid, right? Because he's been waiting a day to get this bounty for bringing in Riddick. But the guards have spotted Vaco and knows that we have like a group of necromongers on the way. So like basically this dude Toombs just led the necromongers to their prison. So that's a big problem. You stole a prisoner from them. And so they get in a big gunfight, Toombs and the other mercs versus the guards. And the guns in this movie are insane. I also wanted to talk about that chessboard with all the bullets on it.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I noticed a lot of loose bullets everywhere, but I didn't see the chessboard.
There was one scene where two dudes were playing chess and all the different pieces, like pawn, knight, king, queen, all that stuff, were different sized bullets.
Hey, that's what you do in prison,
Yeah, it's just a funny little visual.
These guys are badasses, Chris. Come on.
Such badasses, dude.
But yeah, the guns are like massive. I wrote massive gun holes. Yes. Massive gun holes is what I wrote. Like the barrels were gigantic, and it didn't seem like the bullets were like extra powerful or anything. They were just like these giant clunky. They looked plastic. These guns, something you'd have as like a child. Yeah.
Yep. And then after the gunfight kind of settles down, Riddick climbs a rope up to the control center where this gunfight just took place, and he also sees Vaco's plane. And realizes that the guards are headed to the one plane that's still on the island, or still on this foreign planet that's still a ways away, right?
He comes up with this whole thing of like the guards probably did this, and this, and they left you here waiting. They left all of us here to die, and they're like, "How do you know all this?" And he says, "Because that was my plan."
So, to leave them all there to die, or
just like to get to the ship. Like,
there we go. Okay,
they locked everyone in, and they were going to take the path back underground to the ship to escape. And Riddick's like, "That was my plan." That's how he knows the guards did it. So they come up with a new plan. While the guards are rushing to the ship underground, they're going to go topside.
Topside.
And luckily...
700-degree / -300-degree weather. Yeah.
But luckily, Chris, it's right at the right time. The sun is rising. There's a 700-degree sunrise. But there's a sweet spot right in the middle that they're going to run through. So basically, right between the cold and the hot, as the sun is rising, they're going to time and run all the way to the ship topside.
Yes,
So
it
that's
is
their
such
plan.
an insane idea for a movie that
Yeah.
I have so much love for whoever came up with that idea for this planet. But yeah, because as the sun is coming, it's literally like flamethrower blasts of fire coming across the scape on this planet. So
Yeah, it's just like clouds of hot. I don't even
Yeah.
know how to describe it. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what they do. They run all the way there. Escaping the sun. They have to like climb a mountain because this mountain on the other side is gonna shield them from the sun.
Yep.
At least temporarily. Halfway up though, people start dying and they don't make it. The girl, so there's a scene now where the girl's about to Kyra isn't gonna quite make it, right? And the sun's like almost there.
Yes.
And Riddick asks for this is the most ridiculous part in the movie for me. He asks for one of the prisoners' rope and the water. And he like straps his rope in, ties it up real quick, and then just dumps water all over himself. That's gonna save him.
To stay cold, bro. Didn't you do science? Come on.
His heat shield is just a little bit of water on his
It's like
body.
like a 20-ounce like Evian water bottle. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he like kind of swings around on the mountainside and grabs her and pulls her back up into the little cove of the mountain where it's
like just before the fire gets there, right?
Yeah, and it's
But
like he's like steaming.
Yeah.
From the water.
But then the insane part to me is then they have another window where there's no sun for like another 20 minutes of movie time. So I don't know what happened to the sun at that point.
The mountain was the sun shield. So they climbed up the mountain.
So they're in the shadow of the mountain at this point?
They're in the shadow of the mountain, exactly.
Okay.
And
thank you.
There's a shot of Toombs, the guy who had been hunting him, the merc, and he'd been locked up in a cage down in the prison screaming like, Riddick, I should have taken the money. So, he basically fucked up by not taking the money and just getting off that planet. And now that's the last you see of him, I believe.
Yeah, but he doesn't show him dying. So I would be curious if they try and bring him back at some point, just as like a, I don't know, legacy villain or something.
So how's this going with this chase? There's like they're underground and they're top ground. There's these little like, what do you call these? Like sniper chambers or something?
Yeah, like the tunnel that the guards are running in. There are spots along the tunnel where you can climb up to the surface, and then there's like little turrets, like lookout turrets, and they get in a little gunfight with the escaped prisoners from one of those.
Yeah. And there's another guy there named Anatoly who can like also smell and sense things, right? On their side, on the guard side.
I didn't pick that up. Okay.
He's just like, we got to go up here. This is where they are. And they're like, why listen to this guy? Because he can smell them. So I don't know. I don't know if this guy was supposed to be a Furion, if that's what they're alluding to, but this other guy was on the guard side helping them.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't really come into play. But they eventually run. They're just, escaping everything, running. They go into a place called the Volcano Fields, which I...
Because of course this planet isn't ridiculous enough already. We need to add volcano fields, not one, fields of them.
Yeah. How does that work, Chris? What does a volcano field look like?
This is a great question. I would imagine it's like it's like Hawaii, where it's like a number of them like hot spots popping up through the plate, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know the technical term for a volcano field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, as this chase is going on, Vaco is landing. So we have a third party entering this big last fight on Crematoria. Yeah. Do you have anything else from this fight? Like a lot of killing, a lot of slow-mos. The spike boots get some action. There's a lot of like aerial, like jump punches, stuff like that.
Yeah, he's like twirling Kira around, and like they're fighting all the necro guards or whatever. And and like using her boots to like slice people around. He's just running with these double knives that are like these rounded knives on each fist. And
Yeah.
just slicing through every guy in this army. Very
Absolutely
easily. It's not an amazing fight scene. It's not like bad, but it's kind of just whatever. And the one thing that they did weird, and I think it was they took out the sound effects and kind of just have music during this part. Did you notice that? There's no
I
like
did notice that.
slice
Yeah.
or punch kick sounds for about 30 seconds to a minute of him just killing everyone. And I think that was a because I read in the unrated director's cut, it was added back in their sound effects, and I think that was something with the to keep it
PG-13 rating.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Less slicing and groaning, I guess, is what they're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was a strange thing. Just a very small, minor thing that like keeps it PG-13. Like he's still killing everybody, but you don't hear the punch effects, and that's okay.
Yeah, but it's it is kind of weird though, because it's like it's I don't know, one of the more important fight scenes in the whole movie, right? It's like 3 groups of dudes fighting and on this planet where the sun's on the way and all this other stuff. Speaking of the sun's about to come up where they are, and the necromongers that are left bail on out of there. Vaco and a couple guys. But there's one that stays behind named the Purifier.
They knock Riddick out, or and he's like laying in the sun, and they just assume he's gonna die there or is dead already, so they leave, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so they leave. They take the girl with them.
They take Kyra.
And then tell me about this Purifier guy.
The Purifier, I didn't even like recognize him from earlier in the movie, but I remembered the name. The Purifier was one of the other like leaders of the necromongers who Vaco was like worried was going to take the top job or something.
He's like the spiritual leader of it, kind of. He converts people.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, okay. Did you recognize him from earlier in the movie? Because I had completely forgotten about that.
I did. They barely showed him, but I recognized his outfit was like different. That was kind of okay. I recognized him as a different figure, but I didn't really. He didn't do anything special that I noticed.
Yeah, this was his big moment in the sun. Get it? Do you see what I did there, Tanner?
Yeah.
What I did there. In this movie, and he saves Riddick, reveals that he's a Furian as well, and sends Riddick on to take on the necromongers before walking out into the sun and burning to death.
I didn't understand
the end of the Purifier.
I didn't understand any of that stuff.
Neither did I,
because he does like reveal that he's
go
that he's Furian. And that he's the same race as him. But then why did he want to die?
Great question. Such a good question. It seems like if he wanted to actually take down the necromongers, he should have gone with Riddick and fought against them. But maybe it doesn't work that way, and he would have like been brainwashed or whatever because he's a necromonger himself. I don't know the whole thing.
Yeah, was he supposed to be like coming to like he was regretting all the things that he'd done in this position or something, and kind of
maybe that's
I don't deserve to live anymore because of all the bad things I've done, kind of thing.
But was he supposed to be his last act, probably something like that? Yeah,
his turn, character turn, where he's like, "I'm gonna do one good thing before I go," which he could have just assisted Riddick, and they could have killed everyone, saved the world even easier with his help, because he was like a double agent at that point.
Yeah,
but instead he just walks out into the sun and disintegrates. So that all happens. He gets a special knife, and now he's got the ship also to go back.
But there is like a little bit of like same in the first movie where it's like, is this lone wolf gonna actually go help other people, or is he gonna go lone wolf? Because now everyone thinks he's dead. He has his own ship, and there's no bounty on his head any longer, so he could just he could
just leave.
He could just leave and like go do Riddick things from now on.
But even though it's like the prophecy and kind of his fate to go to kill this guy, right? That's kind of what they're alluding to. They're like, you could just leave or fulfill your prophecy. They don't say it like that. But I think the main thing that brings them to it is the girl, right?
Absolutely.
Like they captured the girl. Jack/Kyra, and yeah, so that's why he goes back to save her.
Yep.
And he goes back to Helion Prime.
Helion Prime. Yep.
And it is the day of days. This is a day of days, they say. It's a
Oh,
day
is that
of
what they say,
days.
Tanner?
Yeah. So there's a couple more scenes with Judi Dench. I think they're just kind of like, they praise Carl Urban for killing him because he lies. He lies and says that he killed him. So he gets like promoted or whatever. And she tells the Lord, what's his name? God, Lord Marshall,
Lord Marshall.
that
Yep.
there's a good chance Riddick is still alive.
Why did she do that?
I don't know, because she's just an honest. She's just honest.
But what about his element of surprise? She's like messing with his flow, you know?
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway. But Riddick's there. We get a couple quick shots of him wearing in disguise as one of the necromongers with one of those helmets and all that stuff. And Vaco kind of figures out that Riddick is there, but decides to let Riddick make his move to kill Lord Marshall. So then Vaco, can swoop in and steal the throne for himself, right? It's easier to take on, let Riddick kind of be the bad guy, and then he can swoop in and be the new king.
Yeah.
So
So
we're almost at the end of this movie. We're getting close.
Yeah. Riddick is infiltrating in the same armor or whatever, but you can see his eyes poking out. So that's how she sees. Thandie Newton sees that.
Yeah.
And that's when they have that conversation. And then what even happens here? The Lord Marshall's like, we need to leave this planet now for some reason. And on their way out, they release the blue orb, a giant blue orb over the city. And this is what I brought up earlier, where it's like, it may destroy the entire city. I think they're alluding to that. Apparently, in some versions, that happens. Maybe in the director's cut or something. In this version, it doesn't happen. It doesn't
like that.
destroy anything. Yeah.
Oh, so like Helion Prime gets blown up in the director's cut or something.
Yeah, at this point in the director's cut, it goes up into the air, and you never see it go back into it. Like at the end of this movie, it goes back into the thing, right? And they make a point of showing that, but in the director's cut, it doesn't show that. So I don't know. I think it was supposed to imply that he's killing everyone on this planet as he's leaving.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But, yeah, there's a shot of like the little girl again and the mom for some reason. They really have no point in this movie anymore, and that's the last you see of them. A mom's family, but they're still there. They're still alive. And there's a lenser again. So he's walking around in the suit, and one of those lens creatures notices him.
Yes. His heat signature is wrong.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Riddick kills this thing, and then they find the dead body of it, and now they are confirmed that Riddick is somewhere in their midst through this thing. Yeah?
Yep. Through here, Riddick stabs a couple guys in the face and then attacks the Lord Marshal, right? He wants to bring this dude down. But the Lord Marshal is half dead from his trip to the underworld way back when, and he's too quick for the attack. He's got Kyra, and she's been necromongered. Riddick manages to throw a knife and make contact, but it does not kill the Lord Marshal. He's too fast. Kind of like
so he's got.
This
I wrote that down. Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So in the Highlander, the Source, it's got like this fast kind of ghostly movement to him when he's like zipping all around, back and forth around Riddick when they're fighting. He can't seem to catch up. He moves too fast.
Yeah. And honestly, don't go watch that movie. It is one of the worst movies that we've watched for this podcast, but I feel like we're going to bring it up more than most of the other ones for the foreseeable future. Would you agree?
Well, yeah. I think it'll be every movie we're going to try to relate back to the Source.
Back to the Highlander, the Source. Absolutely.
It is called the Source.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a showdown, big fight. He tries to take Riddick's soul at one point. He's got him down. And
Yep.
Riddick says no and resists. His soul is too strong.
Yeah, you were talking about the special effects earlier, but when he's trying to pull Riddick's soul out, you see like Riddick's soul like coming out, and Vin Diesel just making these insane like no faces, and it is so ridiculous looking.
I wish I would have got a closer look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the necro ghost punch is what I was calling it. It's like super strong.
Yes.
I don't even know. They're fighting at the last minute.
Kyra saves him at the last minute.
Yeah.
Even though she's been necromancered, she stabs the Lord Marshal and breaks his like grip to steal Riddick's soul. And then what happens, Tanner?
I don't know. Is that Vaco comes in and is like tries to put the finishing blow onto the Lord Marshal, but the Lord Marshal uses it's like kind of a slow motion thing where his soul is escaping and it's him like trying to transport out of the way of Vaco's axe.
Yes.
And it all happens very fast, and Riddick is waiting right by where so like the soul is like him transporting, right?
Yeah.
So you see like his soul kind of leaving his body, and that's like where his body's going to transport and catch up to the soul. Or whatever. But he's right by Riddick, and so he transports, moves out of the way of the axe, and Riddick stabs him in the head.
And breaks off the handle.
Breaks off the handle. Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
After Kira stabbed him in the back, she gets knocked back as well and gets impaled and stabbed. So she died as well. And Riddick is alone again. Tell them about the ending though, Chris.
But he's alone, but he's also now the king, right? He did the he murdered the Lord Marshal, so he is now in charge of the Necromancer army.
Well, he just like sits down kind of like defeated, like tired, she's dead, and he's all upset about that. He just kind of sits down in the throne and looks up, and they're all starting to bow towards him.
Exactly.
I kind of like that where he just like doesn't notice or think about what's happening.
He wouldn't want to be a king, right? Like it's yeah. And then there was that line at the end about you keep what you kill. Like he killed the Lord Marshal, so now you get to keep his title and everything.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a funny thing. Funny way to end it. I don't think he's going to be the Dark Army Lord for the rest of in the next movie or anything. So we'll see what happens. But there's a kind of an outro with Judi Dench talking about I don't know how Riddick is going to be in charge of this army. I don't know how that's going to work. Kind of a pointless little narration. Yeah. But then the last shot is like I said, that blue orb thing going back into its capsule, and assuming he saved the planet and everything's good, and then it ends. Yeah. There it was. That's the Chronicles of Riddick.
It seemed like more like one chronicle. Is it multiple chronicles?
You're right. It should be called the Chronicle of Riddick.
Okay.
What is the definition of chronicle, though, exactly?
I don't know. Let's find out.
The Chronicle, what calls of Riddick?
The chronic what?
What? Factual written account of important or historical events in the order of their occurrence. So, yeah. I think it's supposed to be like a long, detailed history, right?
Okay. This movie was too long and it had too many details. So chronicle is a good word for.
But it is only one event, right? It's only
one event. So it should be a chronicle, not chronicles. Like this,
whole trilogy
is wrong. Yeah.
The whole trilogy should be called the Chronicles of Riddick. But
yes,
this movie specifically is just one story in the entire chronicle.
Absolutely. Maybe they'll get the pluralization right on the next one.
Yeah. So, Chris, did you like the movie?
Man, I had mixed feelings about this movie. I think overall, yes. Like all the weird little like fire planet and the fight scenes and stuff, I think I found them to be pretty entertaining. I don't love this kind of movie with all this like air elemental and like
Yeah.
underworld. That stuff I didn't need. I just kind of
Totally.
like Vin Diesel being a badass on an insane planet that could never exist. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
positive 700 degrees, negative 300 degrees prison. Like that's a great place to put Vin Diesel. I think I like. Well, I mean, I think I like Pitchback better, but this one was an entertaining watch. It was too long for me, but overall, you know, it was another fun movie. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of feel pretty much the exact same way. I enjoyed watching it. I don't think it's a good movie, really. It's not like super quality all around, but
Yeah.
it's not like a great movie, but it's like a fun watch. And there's a lot of cool ideas, and Riddick is a cool character and fun to
Yeah.
watch. A lot of great lines that made me laugh out loud. Just
Yeah.
like because it's Vin Diesel and he's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's that kind of slow moving, like that kind of voice just makes me chuckle.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Way bigger budget on this one than Pitch Black, and you could see
Yeah.
it. Like you could see it on the screen. It's like a much higher. I don't know. Yeah, it's just a much bigger movie in so many ways.
Yeah, but the special effects are a little cheesy for me, but that's just kind of the time. Like the CGI, I think this character in this series would probably do better with a smaller budget overall, like without the bloated CGI kind of cheesiness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm excited for the next one because I know, okay, so Pitchback was super low budget. This movie was 115, about 100 to 120 million dollar budget. So that's a big budget movie. And the next one I think is like a third of that. So they went back to maybe lower budget, which I think would probably serve it well.
Okay.
Yeah, because CGI is expensive, and at that time it wasn't very good. It's still to this day CGI is a little bloated as compared to practical effects. It just doesn't look as good. We've talked about this in other franchises, where it should be more practical, but then CGI kind of like, adds to it and heightens it. Anyway, so yeah, this movie cost, like I said, about 100 to 120 million. It made 115 million at the box office. So it made the most of any of these movies, but it's still considered a disappointment. Right. And Chris, let's see.
That's probably when they went back down in budget on the next one, It made enough to get a sequel, but just barely. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes. Well, I have a good story about that. I guess I'll talk about it right now. So, this movie was not going to get a sequel at all. The next one came out 9 years later. But Vin Diesel loved the character and this franchise so much. It's like his baby, that he got the rights to it so the end of Fast and Furious 3, Tokyo Drift, there's a cameo with Vin Diesel in it, and he's not really in the movie at all. In fact, he's not in Too Fast, Too Furious either. But he makes a cameo at the end of that, and in exchange for this cameo, he asked for the rights to the Riddick franchise. So,
are you serious?
100%. Yes.
He did a cameo in Tokyo Drift, which gave him the rights back to Riddick.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it might have been some kind of rights with the Fast and Furious franchise too, or also so he could then they
honestly that worked out great for the movie studio too, because look at how much money they made on Fast and Furious. Like 100%. what a good business deal for both of them.
Vin Diesel is an interesting character because he started off as like a artistic film director. It's like he made some short films when he started, and then he kind of just turned into like an action guy. I guess Stallone kind of did the same thing where he won an Academy Award and then just turned into like the meathead guy.
Well, Vin Diesel was in, he was the Iron Giant, and then what was the Saving Private Ryan, right? He's one of the dudes in that too, and that's like.
But that's like a war movie, so he's kind of a war, meathead kind of guy in that. I could see that.
That's true, but the planet doesn't get 700 degrees during the day and negative 300 at night. That's the difference.
So he gets the rights to Riddick character and franchise, and that's the only reason that they ended up making it, is because Vin Diesel willed all of this and continued the franchise.
Okay.
So he produces and does a lot for the next movie. Yeah, I just thought that was a really awesome story that he did this cameo just for the rights. It's the only reason the next movie gets made. One question we ask is like, does this movie do enough to warrant a sequel? And I like this one because of the fact that it didn't warrant a sequel, but they got one anyway because it wasn't a success and it was lukewarm reception to like the movie. People didn't love it, except for diehard fans and stuff. But it got a sequel anyway due to the love of the actor and
star.
filmmaker and the director and stuff. So
that is cool. That is really cool.
I love that story. Yeah. I had that last week and I saved it for this week. I've been wanting to say it this whole time.
Okay. Well, here we go. It was worth the wait, baby. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Personally, though, Chris, do you think it deserves more sequels? Do you think the character is strong enough after this?
I mean, that's a really good question. I thought the cliffhanger that this movie ended on was pretty entertaining. And the way that this universe, I mean, it's infinite possibilities for new worlds, and just more. I mean, you could bring Toombs back and have him chasing Riddick around. Like, there's a lot of stuff you could do. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think? I think I could go either way. I mean, I would like to see another one of these movies, but I mean, with the financial cost of making a sci-fi movie, it probably wouldn't make sense. So I think I'd go with no, but hesitant now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I mean, financially maybe not, but again, they lowered the budget, and I think made the reviews for the next one are supposed to be way better. Like, I think maybe they figured out how to do it better as like a more contained story rather than like this huge political.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They kind of went like the Star Wars prequels with it, where it's like big, like sweeping epic kind of style, and they have like, more
I was thinking about that when we were watching this. I kind of think this would have been better served. Like, there's just too much story in it. I feel like it would have been better served as like a 2-part movie or like a 6-part miniseries or something else, just where you could let more of those storylines breathe a little bit, because there's just a lot of stuff going on.
Totally. Well, that's why they have those moments of just like expo dumps.
Yes.
But I think the character's strong enough, and with the game that I play that I'll talk about, it does feel like you could put Riddick in lots of situations and it'd be super fun. Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, I was going to go over the MVP and beef. I don't think we did that last week, but my MVP is Riddick himself. Do you have an MVP?
Ooh, Crematoria is my MVP.
Yeah.
I think Riddick's a great choice, but I'm going to pick something different because you got there first.
I love the different planets that they go onto in these movies. Hopefully they have a cool one for the next movie.
Yeah.
And then the beef, I would say, would be for me the special effects of an outdated era. A little bit cheesy. The CGI, just to me, a lot of things look very like a goofy set to me. It didn't distract from my fun of watching it. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, not intriguing, but it's like, oh, that's kind of cute that it looked like this back then,
Sure.
Endearing is what I was looking for, but it still looks pretty campy and cheesy overall. And I think that's the bloated budget thing. They're like, oh, we got a huge budget. Let's put in a bunch of CGI.
Yeah. We'll get Judi Dench for 3 scenes.
I know.
Got $150 million. Yeah. It's
the Dame.
The Dame herself, man.
At one point, she's a ghost in chains, too. Did you notice that?
I did notice that.
You put a ghost in chains?
I don't know. Great question.
She could get out of that so easily, I feel like.
If we do Ghostbusters, we might find out then.
Good call.
My beef, I think I mentioned it before, but like I think like all of the I don't personally need all the mythology, all the elementals and all the underworld and like that stuff. But I mean, I guess that is world building, and I'm fine with it. But I don't know. I just like the Riddick on other planets stuff, and this one felt like that story was kind of bloated with all these other little little things for me.
Yeah, it's definitely bloated.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
let's see. Yeah. Do you think it's a time capsule or a timeless movie, or is that kind of irrelevant for this one?
I'd say it's probably closer to a time capsule than a timeless movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, are people still? I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it holds
Yeah.
up just fine, but it's not timeless in that sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's still a fun movie. The character potentially could be timeless. We'll see how it
Yeah.
stands the test of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Is that anything else you want to talk about here before we get into the milk?
Man, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got everything that I wanted to hit on today. Can I do my milk first? Because mine's a lot faster.
Yeah, I do have one tidbit, I guess.
Oh,
that
please.
I meant to mention. Judy Dench mentions that she never really understood what was going on in the movie, but enjoyed making the movie and thought the sets were great.
What a grandma thing to say. Oh yeah, have fun with your cute movie. It was so much fun.
Vin Diesel like courted her a bunch to get her in this movie. Dressing rooms filled with bouquets of flowers. He really tried to get her in this for some reason.
Cool. I mean, her voice is so wonderful. Like the voiceovers with her, like there's nobody who would do that better, right?
The Dame. Yeah.
The Dame, man.
She's good. She's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I had. I thought that was kind of funny. She had no idea what was happening. And it showed. Yeah, so this next part of the podcast is called The Milk, where we talk about what's been milked out of this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris, tell me about what you watched.
Let's see. I watched something. It's on YouTube and it's only 8 minutes long. So the investment was very low this week, but the enjoyment was also pretty low this week. I watched a thing called, let's see, it's called Riddick Slam City. And it's like it's kind of like
a basketball movie, right?
Exactly. Space Slam City. No, and Space. Sorry, that was supposed to be a Space Jam joke, and it just didn't work.
Ooh, nice.
Away from that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's an 8-minute YouTube video, and it's kind of set up like it's like a graphic novel that's like illustrated, sort of. All of the dialogue is just on the bottom, typed out. So there's no voice acting, none of that. There's a little bit of sound. There's a little bit of sound effects, like of people walking or things like that. And it kind of tells the story. It tells a part of Riddick's origin story. It shows him trading the 20 cools for the shine job on his eyes. And yeah,
so it does show that in this.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So I don't know. It was okay. It was made by that David Twohy guy, like the director of all the big franchise movies. Made this 8-minute, like super low budget short. And I don't know. If you're a diehard, I'm sure it's cool to see, but it didn't do much for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this must have came out. Did this come out before? It says it was on the Pitch Black website. So I think this came out when the Pitch Black thing came out, and then later all that stuff was probably retconned, and this is probably irrelevant now. Maybe in the character's history.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry you had to watch that. Luckily, it was very short.
No, yeah, and it was fine. I mean, that's what this section of the podcast is about. Like, what other stuff have they tried to squeeze out? And I think they're going to walk away from what happened in this, because it sounds like they do go into more of the eyes weren't actually a shine job. It's a Furion thing or something. So I don't know.
Yeah. So, I played my milk is that I played the 2004, came out like alongside the movie, I believe. Game for PS3, I'd imagine, Xbox, PS2 maybe. Called NPC, called The Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay. And it's got great reviews. It was like influential at the time and like way ahead of its time, people say. And it was pretty fun. I played the entire game. So it's about 6 to 8 hours long. So pretty short. And I kind of rushed through it on easy mode. So, it probably would take 10 to 12 hours if I was doing everything.
Sure.
But it uses a lot of stealth and some first person elements. But basically, it tells the story of how he escaped from prison and the first time or whatever with Johns. This is when he met Johns in Pitch Black. They kind of they know each other. Or Johns captures him and brings him to the prison. I can't remember exactly. But it kind of starts with him entering the prison. The whole thing's a prison break movie or game. So it's all about your escape from there. And it's pretty fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It might be the first of these games that I've played from start to finish. For this podcast. And so he arrives at the prison. You get some missions from people inside the prison. You got to kill some people. You got to work your way up to like get different, find out different passages to get out of there. And he's basically planning his escape the whole time. There's fun hand-to-hand combat. You use like shadows a lot, so you like duck and you hide in the shadows and like sneak up on people and stuff. So they really utilized as like eyesight stuff. About a fourth of the way into the game, you come across this guy and do a little job for him, and then he like heals your arm, and then afterwards he gets like this little voice in his head from this girl named like Shiria or something, which I only know from looking at the Shira from looking at the Wikipedia. Apparently she was in Chronicles of Riddick and cut out at some point. Supposed to connect maybe the game and the movie. It's just like some voice of her, somebody from the Furian planet or something talking to him. I don't really know.
Okay.
But she's like, you've been blind too long. And then his like sight kicks in right at that moment. His like shine job. And it happens right after he gets surgery from this doctor guy. And he's like, what did you do? And he's like, I only repaired your arm. I only fixed your arm. So there's kind of like this, he blames this guy for doing something to him with his eyesight. But really it's like, it just kind of kicked in from his spirit or something. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Is that making any sense?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
About as much as some of the things that we watched in the movie today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then throughout the game, then you can turn off. There's like you can turn off the night vision, and turn it on. So it utilizes that a bunch. But yeah, a lot of fun things, a lot of various types of gameplay with the stealthing, and there's like little fighting moments, hand-to-hand combat moments where you're in a ring and fighting other prisoners. There's like sneaking up on people and shivving them. And then you get guns and you blow people away, and then you get in mechs as well and go around just destroying people with a mech. So a lot of fun little things. Yeah.
Great.
I think apparently like the use of the shadows was influential. This game has great reviews, which I'm kind of surprised by. I mean, it's fun, but yeah, it's hard to go back 20 years ago and remember like where gaming was at the time.
Yeah.
But a lot of people consider it better than the movie, which is very rare for a video game tie-in. Yeah, what else? What else can I tell you here? Oh, there's some good voice actors. Vin Diesel has tons of great lines.
Great.
And at one point he says, I'm going to snap your head off and piss down your neck. Just like, there's so many lines. I stopped writing them down. But yeah, there's other voice actors in this, including who do I got? Vin Diesel, Michael Rooker from Guardians of the Galaxy, and The Walking Dead. Ron Perlman plays this guy named Jagger. The same actor plays Johns, Cole Hauser, and then Exhibit is in this movie in this game.
Exhibit X to the Z, dude.
Yeah,
Is he up in here? Is he up here in here pimping rides?
He's pimping all the prison rides. Yeah.
I love it. I love
He
it.
plays a prison guard, and it's like, I was like, where's is Exhibit in this? And then all of a sudden I hear him, and it's obviously him, you know?
Yeah, he's got such a distinct voice.
Just yelling at everybody. Everybody hates him. He dies. Yeah, so he goes through this prison. Basically, the plot, he gets out of the prison. Him and Johns end up escaping from it together. And then he gets captured immediately again and goes into this cryo chamber place. And I think it's trying to link up to the beginning of Pitch Black, basically.
Got you. Yep.
But then they escape from that place as well together. And that's the game. So
great.
Yeah.
I'm glad that was such a treat for you, Tanner. This is you've suffered through so many questionably playable games for the sake of this show. So I'm glad you got a fun one this week.
Yeah, it was good. It was just enough time to get sucked in and enjoy it and like put in some time, you know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't long enough. Like if this was like a 60-hour game, I wouldn't have played the whole thing. I don't have that kind of time. At least like in a week. But yeah, there's next week I will probably play some of the sequel called Assault on Dark Athena, which seems like it seems like the exact same game with updated visuals 5 years later.
Okay.
Another kind of escape game where you're sneaking around and killing things. The version I played was that, but they released. It was supposed to be a update of the Butcher Bay game, and they ended up turning it into a whole sequel. So it includes the Butcher Bay game in the same file.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's got both games in there. And I played a little bit of the next one, and it seems like the exact same. So we'll see if I play through it all the way. Yeah. That's that. That's all I got.
Cool.
Any questions about that? Was that interesting at all?
No, that was great. No, it was good getting a rundown of that. And I know that they brought up Butcher Bay. Was that in this movie or was that in Pitch Black?
It's in Pitch Black, yeah. So he's had talked how he was able to escape from this place.
Yeah. Okay. And you get that story through this game. Yeah.
Yeah, in the opening, like at the beginning of the game, it's kind of like the opening of Chronicles of Riddick, where he's on the ice planet with hair and all that. And it shows that, and he's just like remembering. So this whole game basically takes place at the beginning of Chronicles of Riddick, but him remembering how he got out of Butcher Bay. And it's all like his memory of it.
Okay.
So they try to connect it that way.
Yeah,
very loose. But
yeah, all these connected things seem, I don't know. It seems like they could have done a little more work ahead of time to figure out where everything connects, but I don't know.
A lot of sequels.
That it is cool that they're all connected, and maybe that's why it's Chronicles. We're hearing about all these other little adventures, you know.
I want to see them rename the Chronicles of Riddick to something else, like Riddick and the, Temple of Doom or whatever, like just
maybe
put them in, retitle everything.
Maybe that's a survey question for today.
What would you title this?
Riddick? Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's of survey.
Yes, please.
Speaking of survey, the other part that goes along with this show, check the show notes. There's a link down there for like a little survey. It's got some jokes, some questions. Even if you haven't seen the movie, it should be pretty easy to play along. And just like we started off this episode, reading off the answers from last week, our next show will start off with the answers that you help us come up with today. So take a couple minutes if you don't mind and help us fill out that survey. Make our podcast a little better.
Yeah, shout out to Reddit again, the Riddick subreddit for giving us our answers today.
The Riddick Reddit?
The Riddick Reddit.
Riddick Reddit.
And yeah, we'll be back next week watching just titled Riddick.
All right.
We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.